Hello, my name is Margot Park, and I'm a 10th grader at Claremont High School. I ask that if you would please rise, if you are able, and remove your hats for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. I am Desiree Reyes, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services here in Claremont Unified School District. It is an honor for me to be here with you this evening on this, our third annual Women in Leadership event. We are honored to welcome our Claremont Unified School District board members. Honored members, please stand as we say your name. Audience, please hold your applause until the last name is called. Board President, Catherine Dunn. Vice President, Richard O'Neill. Clerk, Dr. Alex McDonald. Trustee, Cheryl Fiello. In addition, I'm pleased to recognize the CUSD Executive Management Team here. Superintendent, Dr. Jim Elsasser. Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Julie Olesnovich. Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Rick Lopez. And Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Mr. Kevin Ward. It is exciting for me to look out into this audience and see the seats filled with such a diverse group. Students, staff members, family members, and friends, all here tonight for the same reason, to support and encourage our students. Events such as these don't happen without the hard work of a team of highly dedicated and focused people, and that is certainly the case tonight. A special word of thanks to the following staff and students for their leadership and organization in planning this event. Ms. Chris Quick, Stage Production, ROP teacher. Ms. Elaine Kong, Director of Communications. Our student stage manager tonight is Vivian Mesones and her team of CHS students. Ms. Stephanie Wilbur, Administrative Assistant. Ms. Angela Gearhart, Executive Secretary to the Superintendent. And Claremont High School staff for the use of their facilities. A round of applause. We are so grateful to each of you. When I think about tonight's event, when I think about tonight's title, Empowering CUSD Students, Women in Leadership, I hear a challenge and an invitation. Empowerment is not a label. It is a practice. It shows up in the choices we make, the questions we ask, and the way we lift each other up. Leadership is not about position. It's about using your voice, your effort, and your integrity to move something good forward. Tonight, you will hear from women who built that kind of leadership day by day. They faced setbacks, asked for help, tried again, and brought others with them. Their stories reflect the district's values of excellence, equity, innovation, and integrity, and they are here to spark the same in you. To our students, you are at the center of tonight. As you listen, notice 3 trends. Courage, to begin before you feel ready. Curiosity, to keep learning when the answer is not obvious. And community, to make sure your success opens doors for someone else. If you carry those 3, you will be unstoppable. I want to leave you with 5 simple practices to lead an empowered life. 1, honor who you are and where you came from. 2, have the courage to be yourself and trust what your heart knows. 3, be open to new ideas. Listen carefully and choose what is right for you. 4, When you fall, get up, learn, and move forward. 5, believe that more is possible because you are building your future with every decision. As Dolores Huerta reminds us, every moment is an organizing opportunity. Every person, a potential activist. Every minute, a chance to change the world. May tonight be one of those moments that stays with you and keeps you moving. Now, to bring our student voices to the forefront, please join me in welcoming the recipient of the CUSD Management Spotlight on Excellence, Mrs. Ann O'Connor, who will introduce our students.
Good evening and welcome. We are delighted you are here for an evening dedicated to inspiring, challenging, and celebrating the voices of our students. At Claremont Unified School District, our purpose is to ignite curiosity, strengthen resilience, and inspire excellence to empower each student's academic journey. Tonight is one way we put that purpose into action. You will hear questions that reflect genuine curiosity, stories that model resilience, and examples of excellence driven by heart and hard work. I'm delighted to introduce the remarkable students who will moderate our conversations. They are thoughtful learners, campus leaders, and compassionate peers who helped shape the questions you will hear. As each student steps to the microphone, they will share their name, school, and grade, as well as an inspirational woman in their life and their own aspirations. You can learn more about each of them in tonight's program. Let's welcome our first student moderator, Isabella Velasquez Caceres.
Hi, my name is Isabella. I'm a 7th grader at El Roble Intermediate. An inspirational woman in my life is my mom. She raised me to be kind and respectful, and she is the reason I am who I am. I aspire to attend Stanford University and become a lawyer.
Elin Kavanaugh.
Hello, my name is Elin Kavanaugh. I'm a 7th grader at El Roble Intermediate School. A few women in my life who inspire me are my mom for her great work and her ability to be so kind and loving. Other women in my life are my 2 grandmothers, Nana Anya and Nana Alicia, and Mother Teresa. A career that I hope to pursue is a lawyer, and one of my Girl Scout leaders, Judge Westfall Kong, is a judge, and after a visit to her court, I hope to be a judge as well.
Eleanor Landerholm.
I'm Eleanor Landerholm, and I'm a 9th grader at CHS. An inspirational woman in my life is my mom because she's a good person and she helps others. I haven't decided on any career aspirations, but I enjoy community service and want to continue that in the future.
Emer Kavanaugh.
Hello, my name is Emer Kavanaugh, and I'm in 9th grade at CHS. An inspirational woman in my life is my mom because of her ability and commitment and love for everyone and everything that she does. In the future, I hope to be a pediatric sports medicine physician.
Margot Park.
Hi, my name is Margot Park, and I'm a 10th grader at Claremont High School. One woman I look up to is my mom. I admire her ability to be a calming presence, her intelligence, and her kind heart. In the future, I want to pursue a career in neuroscience.
And Eve Engelbert.
My name is Eve Engelbert, and I'm a junior at CHS. The woman who inspires me is my mom because of her ongoing kindness and hard work.
When I'm older, I aspire to be a teacher.
Thank you for sharing a little about yourselves with us tonight. We're so excited to hear your insightful questions. Isabella, Elin, Eleanor, Emer, Margot, and Eve, thank you for your commitment and engagement in today's discussion. Your curiosity and determination serve as a strong example for everyone. Your participation and thoughtful questions tonight highlights your dedication to equity and integrity, both core values of the Claremont Unified School District. Please know that you inspire us all. Next, we'd like to emphasize the importance of creating environments where students can explore their limitless potential and see themselves reflected in pioneering and innovative women leaders. The video you are about to review was created by Microsoft and is entitled #MakeWhat'sNext.
My favorite subject in school is science, because you can invent all different kinds of cool things, and there's like no limit what you can do.
One inventor is Benjamin Franklin.
Leonardo da Vinci. Thomas
Edison.
Albert Einstein. Nikola Tesla.
Alexander Bell Grant.
No. It's kind of a tough one.
In school, it was always a male inventor. I just realized that.
There's so much and they don't even know what that's about. You're surprised because they only talk about Einstein and Benjamin, but you never hear a girl in a conversation.
To know that there were women before me, it gives me like motivation that I can invent something and make maybe like a change in the world, and that would be really cool.
Quite inspirational, isn't it? All right. Well, it is my privilege tonight to introduce this year's Women in Leadership keynote speaker. Tonight's keynote embodies our CUSD purpose: igniting curiosity, strengthening resilience, and inspiring excellence to empower each student's academic journey. Senator Sasha Renee Perez represents California's 25th Senate District and serves as chair of the Senate Education Committee. A first-generation college graduate from Cal State LA, she helped lead a campaign that secured $97 million to expand college access for students across the state. She made history in 2020 as the youngest female mayor in the San Gabriel Valley history and the youngest Latina to lead a city of more than 50,000 in California. She continues to champion affordability, transparency, public safety, and opportunity for students and families in communities that include Claremont. When she's not working, you might find her hiking, supporting local restaurants, or eating with her cats. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Senator Sasha Renee Perez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for that warm welcome, and especially thank you to Dr. Julie Olesnovich and the Claremont Unified School District for hosting this incredible Women in Leadership event. It's a privilege to stand before you this evening. I'm excited to speak with all of you, young leaders, aspiring change makers, and future innovators. And can we give our students a round of applause just one more time? Today we're here to celebrate what it means to lead and to spark your potential to become leaders in your own right. Let's start with a question. What does leadership mean to you? Leadership isn't just about being the loudest person in the room. It's about inspiring others, embracing challenges, and making a positive impact on your community. Each of you can influence change, whether through advocacy, your voice on social media, or simply by being a good friend and listening to others. I want to share a personal story that shaped my understanding of leadership and the importance of education. I'm proud to say that I am the first in my family to go to college. It wasn't always an easy journey, and there were times when I felt overwhelmed. But I remembered the sacrifices my family made for me to have this opportunity. They worked hard to provide me with a better life, and education was the key. As I navigated my college journey, I found myself not only pursuing my own dreams, but also inspiring my younger sister along the way, who is now also pursuing her master's. And I encouraged her to consider college and the various paths that might be available to her. I shared my stories of trial and triumph, emphasizing that education isn't just about getting a degree. It's about opening doors to new opportunities and experiences. So how can you all take action? There are so many ways for you all to get involved. First and foremost, participate in activities, clubs, or organizations at your school. Whether it's student government, which I was very involved with as a student, drama club, or a sports team, involvement helps you develop skills that are essential for leadership. You can also focus on finding your voice, whether it's through writing, speaking, or art. Express your ideas and passions. Don't be afraid to share what matters to you. Your perspective can inspire others. Support one another. Leadership is not a solo journey. Encourage your peers, uplift those around you, and collaborate on projects. Together, you can achieve much more than as individuals. And finally, and possibly most importantly, be informed. Stay updated on the issues facing your community and the world. Knowledge is power. The more you understand, the better equipped you are to be an advocate for change. Now, during my own journey, I've faced challenges and moments of self-doubt. And so many times, even running for this office, I knew that I was likely going to be the youngest member of the Senate should I win this role. And I ran against folks that had a lot more money and a lot more resources than I did. I was nervous and oftentimes very intimidated, but I leaned into so many of the things that I mentioned, whether that's being sure that I'm knowledgeable about the issues, relying on my friends and my family, and building out a team that was critical to my support and making sure that I could win this state Senate seat. I also want to emphasize the importance of diversity in leadership. Diverse voices create richer conversations and better solutions. Each of you brings unique experiences and perspectives that are invaluable to tackling the challenges we face today. Your background and story are not just part of who you are, but they give you strength as a leader and make you an integral part of the leadership landscape. As you leave here today, I challenge you to act. Think about a cause that resonates with you, whether it's climate change, education, social justice, or mental health. Get involved, raise awareness, and use your talents to make a difference. Remember that titles do not define leadership. It is about making an impact on the lives of others. And as you do, you'll find that leadership is not just about what you can do for others, but also about the personal growth and fulfillment that it brings you. In closing, I want to remind you, each of you has the potential to be a leader. Don't wait for someone to hand you a title. Embrace opportunities that come your way and create your own path. The world is waiting for your ideas, your courage, and your vision. Just as I aspire to be a role model for my sister, I encourage each of you to be a role model for your peers and younger students. Inspire them to dream big and help them see that college and leadership are within reach. Together, let's empower one another and uplift our communities. You are the leaders of tomorrow, and it's time to step up and shine. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. Now is the time for our other panelists to join us on the stage. If you'll all come and take your seats. We would like to start by asking each member of the panel to introduce themselves and provide a brief overview of your occupation. We're going to go down the line of panelists. Judge Westfall Kong, if you would please start us off by introducing yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you and back at my alma mater and on this stage with these incredible women. So I'm Allison Westfall Kong. I serve as a judge on the Los Angeles County Superior Court. I am assigned to an unlimited jurisdiction civil calendar, which basically means any civil case where the plaintiff is seeking $35,000 or more in damages can end up in my courtroom. I oversee the cases from beginning to end, so from the time the case is filed, any motions that are filed in the case, evidentiary hearings, trials. Just as in criminal law, you have a right to a jury trial in civil cases as well, so I also preside over jury trials. So if you ever get a jury summons, you may end up in my courtroom. Thank you for your service. And yeah, even after trial, I then hear post-trial motions and enforcement proceedings when people are trying to enforce monetary judgments. So just to give you a flavor for the kinds of cases, any kind of dispute between two parties can come before me. Personal injury cases, like car accident cases, breach of contract cases, discrimination cases, alleging that your workplace discriminated against you because of gender or race or religion or another protected characteristic. So all of those cases could end up in my courtroom. So that's to give you a sense of what I do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kathleen Ferris, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Chief Executive Officer for the Claremont Chamber of Commerce. What that means, big fancy words, is that I get to work with our over 400 businesses in our city to help them either scale and grow their business or pass it on to the next generation, so then leaders like all of you can take over those businesses and then be able to pass that on to your family. So typically a business owner might come to our office and ask for support or resources, whether they're looking at growing their restaurant business or if they're interested in hiring some of you to work in their organization. So I'm thrilled to be here today, and it's a pleasure to serve on the panel. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Senator Sasha Renee Perez. I represent the 25th Senate District for the California State Legislature, which covers everything from Glendale, going across the foothills, stretching out here to Claremont, Rancho Cucamonga. I go down south to areas like Monterey Park and Alhambra in the West San Gabriel Valley and represent a little over 1 million people. Very honored to have this role. I also chair the Senate Education Committee, so a lot of my policy work focuses on education, not just in the K through 12 space, but also in the higher education space. And I also worked in education for about 15 years before I got elected to the legislature. Really excited to be here with this esteemed panel and look forward to your questions.
First of all, thank you everybody for being here, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from my panelists. I am Dr. Stephanie Dingwall. I have two roles actually. The first is I am the Divisional Dean of Student Academic Affairs at UC Riverside in the College of Natural and Agricultural Sciences. All that means is I oversee staff of advising for both undergraduates and graduate students, all 6,582 of them, in the Science College at UCR. So I see students from physics to biochemistry to environmental sciences, and we do everything from outreach to basically just have fun, talk about career pathways for what these students do. I would say perhaps my more fun role is I'm also a professor of biochemistry as well at UC Riverside. I've been there for 10 years as a professor. I teach metabolism, which means I get to talk about the dangers of the keto diet, why Oreos are good for you, and why coconut oil really isn't. And I really sort of mess with my students and their parents in saying that vitamin C isn't for immunity as you think, but I'll leave that there. So if you have any questions, talk to me after class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this on? Yeah. Okay. I am so honored to be with so many beautiful women doing so much stuff and the future leaders. My name is Candace Yoder. I am Executive Director of Matthew Silverman Memorial Foundation, and our focus there is the mental health and suicide prevention, specifically for middle, high schoolers, and young adults. Outside of that in my role, I'm part of the clinical team of Southern California Counseling Center, and I specialize seeing in clients with suicide ideation, which is my favorite day of the week when I do that. Outside of that, I teach therapists and different professionals, teachers, educators on how to integrate mental health and wellness to their students. And my last and favorite project that I do is going very digital, and I've had the honor and privilege of interviewing and bringing to Fox Sports the conversation of mental health among pro athletes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Each student has questions that will alternate between panelists. In addition, Ms. Reyes and I may occasionally ask clarifying questions to expand the conversation. Our speed rounds allow each panelist to quickly, in just a few words or one sentence or less, respond to a question. Isabella will start us out with our first speed round question.
Speed round 1. When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a dolphin trainer because how amazing to, swim with dolphins. It didn't quite match my skill set, though.
I wanted to be a professional athlete after being a mom, a wife, and growing up and being an adult. So, because I figured being an adult, you could have your own dreams come true and be reality.
I wanted to be an author or a veterinarian because I really love animals, and I'm still just really fascinated by animals. So,
I had 4 goals: a scientist, musician, a dragon, and a jet pilot.
I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Speed round 2. What do you think are qualities that make someone a good leader?
I would say the ability to take criticism and surround yourself with people who will give you honest feedback and tell you the truth, and the ability to listen more than you talk.
I would say you have to have courage and absolutely be open to, as we say, being edited, so tell the truth, and above all, be kind.
I think being empathetic is really important as a leader, someone that's going to just listen and really understand, and also being open-minded, as was mentioned before, being open to criticism, but also being open to other ideas as well.
I think being open-minded is key, but also being able to work with the team, not just tell them what to do, but work with them, and that's important.
I believe resilience is very important, which is something you can start building as early as middle school, as well as emotional intelligence.
Senator Perez, what inspired you to run for office at a young age, and what do you think young women can do right now to make a difference in their communities?
Well, I think my interest in politics really began when I was probably right around your age, when I was a high school student. I was a member of Mark Keppel High School's debate team, and I did congressional debate. I was also incredibly shy, and I was not very good at public speaking. And so when I first became a part of the team, I was actually the researcher for the team because I didn't speak. And so I moved up to varsity level because I was doing all this background research to prep all of our varsity members, and that was kind of my contribution. And we focused on, at the time, we competed in congressional debate. So we focused on bills that were being discussed in Congress, which is what really led me to kind of have this interest in public policy. So I think I knew at that point that that was work that I was interested in doing, and then continued, I think, throughout my time in school when I was at Cal State LA to get really involved in going up to Sacramento for the first time and advocating for legislation and being a part of budget advocacy. And it really opened up my eyes to seeing that I didn't just really enjoy this work, but I was also really good at it. And so that kind of led me to, I think, ultimately choosing to run for office after I worked in policy for some years. When I think about what young people can do right now in order to get involved and make a change, you know, there's so much that you all can do. Organizing within your school for issues that you care about. Showing up to your local city council meetings or your local school board meetings. I know we have some school board members here. And letting them know what your opinions are about issues happening that are being discussed either on the agenda or issues that are happening in your school is actually really powerful. Us as leaders, we really care to hear from young people about what's important to you. And so you have an incredible impact and influence, and being able to get together with your friends and show up to a meeting or request a meeting with one of us as elected officials has a tremendous amount of impact. And we'll certainly listen, and we'll actually be influenced to make a change or make that difference and work with you. So there's so much that you can do. I know social media gets talked about a lot. There's certainly a lot of social media organizing you can do, but there's things you can do in person with your other classmates that can have a really big impact.
Judge Westfall Kong, thank you for taking the time to speak today and for being such a great troop leader. What was the hardest challenge you faced on your path to becoming a judge, and what advice would you share based on what you learned from that experience?
So I experienced, common kind of setbacks that everybody's experienced, being passed up for promotions, not getting certain job opportunities. But one that really sticks out was about a month before my family was moving to Washington, D.C., because my husband was going to do a one-year fellowship there. I had lined up a one-year position with the Department of Justice's Civil Appellate Section, which is this elite appellate unit within the Department of Justice. I was doing mostly appellate litigation at that point in my career, and I thought, oh, this is the next step for me on my track to do appellate litigation. And then less than a month before my entire family is relocating to D.C., there's a funding snafu. And the U.S. attorney says, I'm so sorry, we're not going to be able to pay for this. And so I didn't have a job. And it was really terrifying and devastating. But I was really lucky. I had a lot of really good friends and colleagues who really rallied for me. And actually, a friend of mine from law school that I hadn't even spoken to probably in years was at the Department of Justice's fraud section. And he, said, okay, let me work on this. And then, a day later, there was a posting for the fraud section. And it was totally different than anything I'd ever done. And I was suddenly, in this one-year position where I was investigating these international, bribery and money laundering cases. I had no experience in that. And it took me on a totally different path than the path I was set on and the path I was committed to. And so in the moment, it was just very devastating. But I realized that it actually set me on the path to become a trial judge because it gave me experience in investigations and trials, led to a promotion in the general crime section. And so what I learned from that is in the face of setback, you can find opportunity. And sometimes it might end up putting you on an even better path than the path you were originally on.
Ms. Ferris, thank you for sharing your time with us today. I read that your coaching approach is all about empowering leaders and giving them the tools they need to succeed. How can the Chamber of Congress help students my age grow as leaders and future entrepreneurs?
I love that question. Thank you for that. So what the Chamber can provide is there are so many business owners and leaders in this community who want to be able to serve as mentors to you. So they would come alongside you and ask you open-ended questions, like when we were talking in the green room about what do you want to be when you grow up. I often ask our members, and when I do workshops myself, how many of you like being told what to do? How many of you like being told what to do? I can imagine not very many of us. So we really appreciate being mentors and then also being able to co-create with each of you, even if you don't know what you want to be when you grow up. We want to help you figure out what that is and serve you because it is our responsibility to pay it forward. And everyone in this community is so kind and really just wants to make sure that we give you each an opportunity to come to the table, even if to bring your own chair.
Dr. Dingwall, thank you for sharing your time with us today. What do you love most about working with young adults, and what has been the biggest challenge you faced in that work?
Thanks for the question. I know Eve, so it's a little setup here. So perhaps one of the things I love about working with young adults is the bit of wonder, and sort of seeing that the future is ahead of them and all these possibilities, and the fact that young adults are so open-minded to all these possible things that they can do, and there's so much exploration. You can't help but be excited for them. Can't help but be excited for you and what you're going to do in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's an absolutely amazing transformation to watch all of you just go through these things. Perhaps that leads on to the hardest challenge is also working with students who might have imposter syndrome. You're at this point in life, it's like, what can I do? What should I do? And the answer is, the next question is, am I good enough? Because there's a lot of comparison that goes on with so-and-so next to me does this, so-and-so next to me does that. But also realizing, a lot of us maybe have had imposter syndrome. I do too, still to this day. And I think being able to work through and realize you're not alone, and having that sense of wonder, being able to work together through what you can do. Can I make it in medicine? Yes, you can. Here's a path for you. Can I make it as a researcher in environmental sciences? Yes, you can. Here's a path for you. So I think it's a coupling of both of those between the challenge and then seeing that sort of glorious build from that. And that's why I love working with young adults. Thank you.
Ms. Ms. Yoder, thank you so much for being here today. What message or advice would you give to kids who feel sad or alone to help them feel supported and helpful?
I've thought about this question quite a bit. So I want to start, if you're really, really feeling sad and alone, find a trusted adult or a friend that can lead you to one. I've had a lot of high school students contact me, so call my nonprofit and I will personally talk to you and guide you to the right direction. So that's just for more serious matters. But we're emotional creatures, and it's so hard, and life is so hard. And I can't promise you that things will get better in the moment, but I can promise you that things will look different. And when you're going through a lot, I think sometimes when you're in high school, you forget that there's this big world out there, and maybe you're a little bit more limited. But there are ways and resources out there for you to create your own community, regardless of the barriers you have now. And things are really going to open up, and you will find your place. But your wellness matters. And I hate when people say love yourself, because it's like, okay, what does that mean? What do I do with that? But treat yourself the way that you'd treat a friend. Put yourself in their shoes and treat yourself that way. And that alone will likely lead you to a lot of wellness.
Speed round 3. This is for all panelists. What challenges have you faced in navigating your profession, and how did you overcome them?
So in the legal profession, I think there's often this perception that the successful lawyers are these kind of aggressive type trial lawyers. And so if you don't have an aggressive persona, people perceive you as weak. And so I think that, being underestimated is a common theme both for me and for women in the legal profession generally. But the good news is when people underestimate you, it's at their own peril. You show up in court and you win because you're prepared and you know what you're doing, and people learn not to underestimate you again. And so you just do the work and you prove people's assumptions wrong.
I would say mic drop, but that probably costs a lot of money, so maybe don't do that. So I would say for me, one of the biggest challenges has been my educational journey, because I rose out of poverty and arrived where I am today. And so a lot of times in each of my positions, people would underestimate me because I didn't have a degree behind my name. Now I do now. It has been a beautiful journey, and I'm really proud of all the educational institutions that I not only went to, but that I got to work with. So I think sometimes we need to just stand up, own our voice, and serve, and then our work absolutely shows to others that we can do the job that we were hired to do, and we just have to own our voices and do our job.
I would definitely say one of the biggest challenges I face as a young woman who's a senator is sexism. I oftentimes have people that I'll come into my office who think my chief of staff is a senator because he's a man, and it's always very entertaining when they think that I'm the intern and they find out that I am in fact the senator, and just the look of shock on their face. So it's been an interesting journey. I think, as the judge mentioned before, there's some value though in people underestimating you, and not anticipating or seeing you coming, if you will. And I've definitely just kind of learned to lean into that. And I take great pride in getting to see the look of shock on people's faces when they realize that I am the elected official and not the other men on my team. So, yeah.
Perhaps one of the biggest challenges I've faced, also a little bit of sexism as well. My field is in biophysical inorganic biochemistry, which means you take physics and calculus and chemistry, you throw them into a mixer, and you get a PhD. So these are subjects that I have been told by fellow colleagues, we're surprised you're doing that. We're surprised you're good at math. And my response is, have you read my recent paper? And I realized over time, it's not so much words that would necessarily convince people, and sort of what Allison had alluded to is what you do. You know, you show up, you continue to show up, and you just do what you do. You do your best. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. But continuing and persevering, I think, is one of the biggest challenges, especially in academia, and to just keep going. And how you overcome them, you have a village to help you, you have a team to help you, you have people you can lean on for support, and you just keep doing. And because of, continuing to strive forward, I'm the first professor of teaching in the life sciences at UCR. I'm also the youngest dean to be elected in the College of Natural and Agricultural Sciences at UCR. And you just keep doing. And that's what I tell my students, just keep moving on and keep pushing.
Thank you.
My experience has been so similar to all of the ladies here. Mine was a combination of probably classism, ageism, and sexism. When I switched fields. I had already gone to school and was working in computer numerical control, a male-dominated field, and my plan was to be a mechanical engineer. When in my early 30s, I had the opportunity to change fields. And the board that I was working with were extremely wealthy white men that were about 30 years older than me. So in my early 30s, even as a single mom, I was looked at as a kid. And they couldn't hear me, even though I possessed the emotional intelligence and was out doing the footwork. But I was determined to make this work and to help save lives. I put everything into this entrepreneurship, and I stayed dependable, and I was trustworthy, and made myself an expert. And over time, that faded, and I luckily, gratefully have the respect, that I yearned for it then. But I can say it was challenging. It really was. And I'm so grateful to be where I'm at today.
Thank you so much.
Senator Perez, congratulations on being the youngest member of the California State Senate and the second youngest woman to serve in this position. What guidance would you offer to someone my age who aspires to follow a similar path and become a senator?
Well, for any student and any young person that's interested in being a senator, I would emphasize to them that there's no particular kind of job that you have to have before you become a senator. I work with so many of my colleagues that come from different backgrounds. Some of them have been doctors, some of them have been scientists, some of them have been teachers. I come from the education policy space, and I think that that's part of what makes our legislature really strong, is that so many people come from different backgrounds. I do have a bachelor's in political science and a bachelor's in economics, which is a little bit more of a traditional route, but there are folks that choose to go into the sciences or go through other pathways and still end up being members of the legislature, and those perspectives are really, really valuable too. And so I want to encourage you all, as you think about these things, is to also think about the things that you're really passionate about. Politics, and part of what I love about my job, is that it's so vast and it covers so many different areas, so that I'm constantly on my toes and having to dive in and research something different, because there's always new issues that we're looking to tackle. But that also means that we need people from different backgrounds and different perspectives. And so taking time to kind of develop your niche is actually really valuable, and really leaning into something that you love. And there's so much advocacy that you could do now as a student in doing that. Issues like education, climate change, where you could have a really big impact and begin to kind of experiment and test the waters with your own kind of skills and advocacy.
Judge Westfall Kong, what's one lesson about fairness or integrity that you've learned as a judge that you think every future leader should know?
I would say that your reputation for fairness and your reputation for integrity are two of the most important assets you can have as a future leader. Everybody wants to be treated fairly, and everyone wants to deal with someone who's honest. And so if you conduct yourself that way with integrity and you treat people fairly, people will want to hire you. They'll want to promote you. They'll recommend, business to you. And the other thing I'll say is you never know who in your career that you come across that will kind of make a difference in your career down the line. And so as part of the judicial application process, they actually send surveys out across the entire state of California to kind of every lawyer you've ever interacted with, every judge you've appeared before, and they have to fill out a survey about, if you're fair and if you have integrity. And so I was contacted by, people that I hadn't worked with in like 10 plus years, and they were filling out surveys, and they're, saying, oh, I'm so excited to fill out your survey. I hope it works out. And so it's so important to treat people with fairness and to conduct yourself with integrity. And there will be times where it may make your life a little more, a little less convenient. You might, have to give somebody an extension. It means that a case stays on your plate a little longer. But the person on the other side who's asking you for that professional courtesy will remember that you treated them fairly and that you tried to accommodate them. And that will make a huge difference in their lives. And they'll remember that. And they'll want to recommend you for things. Thank you for the question.
Is there anything that is difficult for women-owned businesses to thrive that other businesses may not face?
That's a great question. So women-owned businesses sometimes face extra challenges that potentially men don't, like access to funding. Sometimes there's cultural norms or family norms that get in the way of supporting them. So my recommendation, if you want to start your own business, is find your tribe. Find your community that can support you, because this is evidence here that all of us have worked through so many different challenges, and there is a lot of funding available to support women-owned and minority-owned. So don't let what you hear in society get in your way of fulfilling your dreams. Just ask somebody else that's already done it, and then you can make sure that your dream becomes a reality.
Dr. Dingwall, how did your time growing up and going to Claremont High influence the person you are today?
Excellent question. First of all, go Wolfpack. So that's the thing. Second of all, I think one of the biggest benefits I learned here at CHS and actually the Claremont Unified School District is being challenged. I was always challenged, not just by my peers, but more importantly by my mentors and my teachers. It's like, okay, we think that's your 100%, give us a little bit more. And it's always that constant elevation of give us a little bit more than you think you can give. And that's fantastic, because the thing is, it really pushed me to what I thought my boundaries were, and it expanded them. And I think that's one of the best things. And now I went into sciences because of teachers and mentors that I had here, specifically at CHS. I can name a few. Dr. Amelia Tchaikovsky, who taught AP Biology for me. Dawn Burke, who taught chemistry for me. Linda Mole, who just recently retired. She taught my environmental sciences class. And I had a lot of wonderful teachers here at CHS who were willing to support me. And perhaps my favorite, she's now gone, is Dr. Ann Koppel. She taught AP French and Russian. And I remember my senior year, I started the day with AP French and I ended with Russian, and I never knew what language I was speaking by the end of the day. But she said, go beyond your boundaries, push yourself, because I'm going to push you. And that's the best part of being here at Claremont, because the teachers especially really do believe in their students and raising that bar of excellence every single time. And I get to embarrass my husband because he teaches high school here. So, yeah, there.
Theodore, as a leader who focuses on mental health and helping others, how do you take care of your own well-being while supporting so many people?
Oh, I made so many mistakes along my journey of not being able to find balance, but I think starting with really learning myself, that took time. So I know I can be a little hypersensitive or cranky if I don't get enough sleep, but then on the flip side, if my workload's too big, some nights it's actually better if I prioritize having a late work night and getting it off my plate because I'll feel better. So really just learning myself and ensuring that I do follow my own boundaries and do exactly what I need for wellness. I also had to learn how to really compartmentalize things so I don't take it on. I am deeply empathic, and it's a skill that you can learn to be able to compartmentalize and also to understand that you can't always save somebody, but the power in sitting with somebody, being there when they're going through something hard and not needing to fix it is amazing. And once I mastered that, I was able to really take care of myself while also sitting with other people while they're going through very difficult times.
Speed round 4. Again, this is for all panelists. How did you decide that this was the career path that you wanted to pursue?
I think I thought that the law was a good combination of what I was passionate about and what would match my skill set. So I wanted to do something that would better my community, that would allow me to fight for justice, and the law provides a means to do that. And it was also a way that I could incorporate my communication skills, my writing skills, and my ability to craft and refute arguments.
So I love being around humans. So I will often say that with those that know me. My great niece Marley May is here. She's heard this lots of times. Yes, Marley May. What I really enjoy doing is serving others. So I feel like my path to here has given me the agency to be able to come alongside leaders and help them figure out where they want to go with their business or their life, and then guiding them through that by asking open-ended questions. So I feel like as a young child, I knew that if you served first, that it would build your community around you. So that's how I arrived here, was just serving others.
Thank you.
So before I came into this role, I was mayor of the city of Alhambra, and I got elected in 2020, and I decided to just get involved with my local city in 2017 after I had been doing so much work at the statewide level and over in other cities. I had done work in the city of Los Angeles. I had done budget work up at the state legislature. And I lived in Alhambra, and I realized that I didn't actually know what was going on in my own city, despite doing all of this big work elsewhere. And I just decided that I wanted to do more and to understand more what was happening. So I showed up to a city council meeting, and I remember they were debating bike lanes, and the bike plan was a very bad bike plan. It needed a lot of work. And I realized that, I could help to organize people around this. And so I organized like 30 people to come out to a meeting, and ended up reworking the bike plan, which I got to ultimately fund when I got to the city council, which I was very proud of. But it was really through, just wanting to show up and get involved with my community and understand what was going on so that I could give back.
Thank you.
I actually wasn't sure. I thought I was going to medical school, to be perfectly honest. I was pre-med in college until a professor told me no, and I'm like, sorry. But basically, 10 years after graduation, I decided to go to graduate school to get my PhD to become a professor just like her. And I remember calling her up and saying, how did you know I wasn't going to medical school? And her words sort of stuck with me. She said, because you remind me of me. And it's, that sort of pathway. It's like I saw in you what I saw in myself, and I knew that you had something different. And I just love the education. I love the fact that I had so much guidance, again, going back to my teachers and my mentors. And that's something, because of her, I wanted to pay it forward. So part of the career path that I love is because of my old professor that really said, pay what you love forward. So that's how I chose my career path.
Thank you.
I too did not originally choose my career path. It kind of fell in my lap, but it did go in line with who I was as a child from a very young age. People at school that I didn't even know would confide in me and just say I was so easy to talk to. So when my sister married a man who had lost his son to suicide, and my kids were of middle school age, I had so much empathy. I cried every time I thought about it. And when he told me he'd like me to memorialize his son's name and to do something, I was scared because I already had a career path and I was a single mom, a one-income household. But I also knew that if I could save one parent from going through that or one kid from suffering, that my entire life would be worth it, and I just jumped into it.
Thank you.
Senator Perez, who are your life influencers or heroes, and why? And why?
I have, I think, many life influencers and heroes and people that I look up to, and I think some of them that I'll, just take a moment to highlight, particularly my mom and my grandfather. I grew up in a household that was somewhat political because my family was very involved in union politics. My mom is a member of SEIU. And my grandfather was an organizer with the sheet metal workers and was very involved during the labor movement, and I have old photos of him with Cesar Chavez. And so I really grew up, with these very working class values, and, him telling me stories and my family telling me stories of how hard workers fought for the rights that we have today. The 5-day work day, us having our weekends off, all of these benefits that I think we've become so accustomed to that we didn't have previously. And that just had such an impact on me and wanting to choose to do this work. And just even my family's legacy, just coming here to this country, being immigrants from Mexico, and just, their story and their journey of being so proud to become American citizens. I have family members who came here through the Bracero program, such as my grandfather, and despite being offered citizenship in exchange for providing his work to this country, he didn't receive citizenship until he was in his 80s. He waited almost 30, 40 plus years. And, I think a lot about that, especially in the time period that we're currently in and what that means to me. And to be able to be in this role. He took such great pride when he became a citizen because he got to vote for the first time. And he admired and looked up to people, like Bill Clinton and JFK, and he was so fascinated by American politics. And he passed away before I ever got elected to office. But even just me being involved in political life and knowing somebody like Supervisor Hilda Solis or Congresswoman Judy Chu, he would be so excited that I would even get to brush shoulders with these individuals. And I think, if he was here now, he would just be beaming to know that I'm an elected official after working so hard just to have the right to vote. So I think about their story and the legacy that they've left behind whenever things get really hard and really difficult for me, because they drive so much of the reason why I do this work.
Judge Westfall Kong, how did your time on the Claremont High speech and debate team shape your confidence or communication skills?
So I think there's no better activity for communication skills than speech and debate, because even if you go to just one tournament, you're doing 3 to 5 speeches at that tournament. Whether you win or lose, you have done public speaking 3 to 5 times in, one weekend. And whether it's a prepared speech or a speech on a topic that you know almost nothing about, or you're having to give a speech, in favor of a particular position, even though your personal view is against that position, once you do that, just everyday communication seems so much less daunting. Speaking up in class, giving a prepared speech in front of a small group, speaking at a family event, giving a toast at a wedding, all of these kind of daily communication skills seem like nothing when you've had to give an impromptu speech on a topic you know nothing about. I think something Senator Perez said resonated with me as well when she said, when I started doing Congress, I was pretty shy. I didn't want to do it. When I started, I wouldn't say I was shy, but the idea of giving a speech without being fully prepared was terrifying to me. And so I actually originally kind of shied away from debate and thought, I'm going to do speech where I can just prepare my speech and memorize it and deliver it. And then over time, I started to do debate. I did student Congress. And so it's not necessarily the case that, the people that do speech and debate naturally have these skills. I came in not being able to give an impromptu speech, and I came out being able to. And so I think it's just a wonderful activity. When you're doing it, you care a lot about the wins and losses and the trophies. But now, that I'm an adult and I'm reflecting on it, I just realize even if you lose every single round, even if you don't take home a trophy, the skills you get from doing speech and debate will benefit you in every single facet of your life, even if you don't go into the law.
Ms. Ferris, have you ever faced self-doubt, and if so, how did you overcome it?
This is probably my favorite question. I told my husband this morning, and I'm neurodivergent, so that adds a whole nother layer. I said today, because I'm sitting at a panel with some incredible women, and sometimes when you look at yourself, going back to what you had shared earlier, is you then start to identify, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not valued, I'm not enough, which is absolutely not true because we all deserve to be where we are. So I have to be the lawyer of my brain, and I have to say, what's happening in the moment in time to be able to ask myself whenever that thought comes up. We all experience that. And for me, as a neurodivergent person, I experience it probably more frequently than a neurotypical person. So I have to be the lawyer of my brain. And then I take 5 deep breaths. We were practicing it in the green room earlier when I asked the students, what advice do you have for me as a new panelist? They were very helpful and said, breathe. So that is the number one thing you have to do when you start to feel like you're not worthy enough. You have to breathe in your nose, pause for 3 seconds, breathe out, do that 5 times, and then you can fully stand here and be here and share your voice.
Dr. Dingwall, how can young women build confidence in science or math fields that sometimes feels intimidating?
Excellent question. One of the things I usually tell my students is if you have trouble, ask, and it's the fear of asking because you don't want to look silly or whatever have you. And then I tell my students, asking is actually not a weakness, it's a strength. If you're willing to ask, that shows that you're strong, that you're willing to put yourself out there. So I try to go with that. I also say, look at some of the people who've come before you. We've all made it. I've done explosions in this high school. You'll never find the evidence, by the way. But realistically, to a certain degree, a lot of it is experimentation. A lot of it is just realizing that science and math and STEM really is fun. It's an exploration just in a different method. If you're curious about something, there's some scientific basis or something else behind it. And I think it's just the amount of fun that you can actually have. And then putting the fun into the science is really awesome. I always tell my students too, what you do in, say, a chemistry lab or a biology lab, you do legally, whereas it's illegal in your garage. So might as well do it in a classroom, where you're allowed to make mistakes and it's on somebody else's dime. Sorry. But it seems intimidating only because, or not only, but one of the reasons is because maybe you don't see somebody like yourself doing it. And that goes back to the comparisons. Like, I don't see anyone like me doing something like this. So be that pioneer, be that first one, and I can guarantee you're going to find somebody out there. And I'll just finish with the fact that last week, and actually yesterday, the Nobel Prizes were handed out. If you think about how many women have actually won Nobel Prizes in physics, in chemistry, in physiology and medicine, it's absolutely incredible. And just for the record, how many of you out there in the audience and students know that there's a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy? Discovered by a woman. Yeah, exactly. So it's stuff like that. That's just really, they can do it, you can do it too. And that's what I would tell them.
Miss Yoder, I'm learning a lot about mental health and the science of happiness in school. What advice do you have for young people to bring awareness on these topics?
I'd say just be vocal. Stigma has a hard time remaining if you're vocal and if you are willing to be vulnerable, because that's what breaks down shame and that's what allows others to share. I like to remind people that, many years ago, generations, cancer was stigmatized, and you didn't say the word cancer, it was a C word, and you whisper about it. And look what we're doing right now. And then you move forward from there, and there was the AIDS epidemic, and that was another thing. It was whispered about, but look where we've come from there. Like, we have cures for it, and you are the mental health generation. Like, this is you, and it's a big piece of why I love working with young people, because you are breaking every bit of stigma that I grew up with, and I had severe social anxiety when I was young. It just undiagnosed because that wasn't a thing back then. So stay vocal. Stay vocal. Things are changing, and you are going to be the ones to make that permanent change.
Speed round 5. What advice would you give to students who are interested in working towards leadership roles like yours?
I would say seek out role models and mentors who will push you to be better and really help you master your craft. It can feel really, comfortable and safe to work for somebody who just tells you, oh, you're great, you're doing great. But when I think back, the people that have really made me, a better lawyer and now, a better judge are the people that really pushed me. I remember I turned in a draft order to Judge Rakoff, who I clerked for, and he returned it with more red ink than I'd ever seen in my life. I don't think he kept a single sentence. But I learned more from legal writing in that 1 year with Judge Rakoff than in years of practice. And so seek out people that will push you to be better.
I want to say ditto, but that's not fair. So what I'll say is serve first, and then do ask for feedback on what you're doing. I know the first time that I used to work for a bowling center for 12 years, and then I ended up jumping around, and I worked for the city of Fontana. And my very first staff report I wrote, my boss, Ray Bragg, gave it back to me. There was so much red that I thought I was going to hyperventilate and throw up at the same time. And I said, okay, can you please help me understand how to write a proper report? Because I didn't know how to write it, and I didn't have a degree yet. And he said, okay, I'll show you. And then we agreed he would use purple pen moving forward, not red, so I wasn't so triggered. So, thank God for therapy, spiritual direction and coaching.
Definitely agree on seeking out good mentors to provide you with guidance and perspective as you're, looking at, your future career path and exploring whether or not that is something that you'd want to do. especially in politics. You know, I just want to remind you all, you don't have to have a title, you don't have to be a senator in order to make an impact or a difference in people's lives. There is so much amazing work that you can do right now by organizing with your friends, by getting involved, by showing up either to a city council meeting or a school board meeting, and having a really big impact. It's also important to have good friends that also share that same interest area as you and share those same values, because it'll help in your growth as you both continue to explore this topic. I have some friends that are very into politics and some friends who do not care at all about politics. And I love them all the same, but it's really, really important for me to have those folks that I'm able to talk about work with, because, you know, they help me to bounce ideas off of, they help me with developing ideas, and you all will benefit from that as well. So.
Thank you.
If you want to go into a certain leadership role, ask the person who holds that role. It's like, how did you get there? What did you do? What are the expectations? And sometimes just having that conversation with the person who's doing it. If you want to become a doctor, do this. If you want to do a teacher, ask a teacher. And I think just talking directly to that person and finding out what their journey is one of the most enlightening things to realize, do I really want to do that? Or, oh my God, no, I don't, you know? And I think that's important, to just talk to the person who's there, you know? So ask questions. Wink.
I think remembering to be brave and what that actually is. You will always have fear. And being brave is having fear and walking through it anyway. It's not being fearless. And I always remember that Beyonce, to this day, says she gets really nervous every time before she goes out on stage. And that allows me to really push forward. So stay brave.
Thank you.
Senator Perez, how could myself and other young people have their voices heard in local government?
So as I mentioned before, I used to be in local government. I was the mayor of the city of Alhambra. I was a council member, and I grew up in the city of Alhambra, so it was very, very special to me. And coming from working in education, it was really important for me to center the needs and the ideas of students. And one of the largest campaigns that was actually led during my time on council was by a group of high school students that was advocating to have smoke-free areas throughout the city of Alhambra. And so these students got together from Alhambra High School, from Marqueppel High School, from San Gabriel, and they came together and they showed up to our meetings and were advocating for this, for us to amend our codes and policies so that we could include more places that were right next to parks and next to schools where children play and spend their time outdoors, because they were getting really frustrated that members of the public were smoking outdoors in areas where they like to hang out with their friends, and they didn't want to be breathing in that tobacco smoke, which I completely understand. I don't think anybody enjoys that experience, but especially our young people. And there's obviously some really harmful health effects of this as well. And so these folks got together and came out to our meetings, and it was really incredible to watch the advocacy of these high school students. And they also began pushing for, we actually now have it as a statewide law, but it was just a local law back then because we didn't have a statewide law, to ban the use of flavored tobacco, to ban the sale of flavored tobacco in the city of Alhambra. And so this became very controversial, as you can imagine. And we had these very large tobacco companies sending out their lobbyists to our meetings and trying to stop this from happening. And the folks fighting against them were high school students, just like you, and they won. and we got the policy passed. And so we were actually one of the first cities in the state of California to ban the sale of flavored tobacco. It then became a statewide law through a proposition that was passed by the voters. But that was really just one example of how young people can be so influential and powerful in political spaces by being really well organized and coming out for an issue that they cared about. And it really just began with a couple of students at Alhambra High School that said, you know, there really shouldn't be people smoking in this particular area because it's right next to our school. And they were totally right. So you all have so much power as young people and the ability to really make a change in your lives and in the lives of your classmates by simply getting involved with your local government or with your local school board.
Judge Westfall Kong, what is the motivation that has kept you from giving up and helped you find success in your career?
Absolutely, my family is my biggest motivation. I'm going to get emotional because my parents are actually here and my daughter is here tonight. But everything I do is to make my family proud, to make my parents proud in recognition of their sacrifices for giving me such an incredible life. And to make my daughter proud, you know, it was really meaningful to me when she was 6 years old. She came and watched me in trial and saw me say, you know, Allison Westfall Kong on behalf of the United States of America. And I think it's one of the reasons I've stayed in public service my entire career, because I want to do something that my children will be proud of, that my husband will be proud of, that my parents will be proud of. And at the same time, your family is what keeps you going. When you have a hard day, when you have a setback, it's nice to come home and go to people who will love and support you no matter what and give you the strength to go back to work the next day and, you know, overcome whatever the challenge is. So I'm grateful to my wonderful family.
Ms. Ferris, what skills need to be developed in students for the workplace for the future?
Well, first I have to take your breath because that was amazing. I just want everybody to give her another round of applause. That took courage. That's a true leader right there, to be vulnerable and to thank our family. And yes, before I answer this question, my great niece and my niece are here, and for some silly reason, they decided to allow my husband to come today. So I know. Thank you so much for coming. We'll try not to cry. So the skills, your question was about the skills of students of the future, right? Okay. See, that's a neurodivergence, right? I have to come back here into this room. So be curious. Above all, be curious. There's so much going on outside your body and inside your body, so you really want to make sure that you're curious, because the employer of the future wants to know that you have a voice, and that when you're sitting in front of Jim Elsasser, our superintendent, and the next superintendent after him, that you're going to be able to serve them in a way that supports the organization as a whole. Also, you work with other team members, because we are better together. So all of you working collaboratively together to put this on, you get to learn lots of different skills, which will serve you in the future no matter what you want to be when you grow up. One of the things, spend time face-to-face. I know we all love our social media and we love phones and all the devices, but nothing beats the face-to-face conversation, because then it helps you develop emotionally and your interpersonal skills, so then you can show up and serve your family and serve yourself. And above all, I've said this already earlier, be kind. Be kind to yourself first, because once you're kind to yourself, you can be kind to everybody that comes into your organization and serve your community.
Dr. Dingwall, what would you tell a teenager girl who dreams of becoming a scientist or college professor one day?
2 words. Heck yeah. Absolutely. Have fun with it. Oh my gosh, it's one of the most amazing things you can do to teach college or science. I mean, absolutely, heck yeah. It's just so much curiosity you can actually bring to the table. You can learn from your students. You can grow as a community. It's fun. I mean, for me, I never expected to play with 300-liter tanks of carbon monoxide. Yes, I did say carbon monoxide. And hope that you don't suffocate with 3 CO detectors in the room. But then realize I get to play with this in magnets as big as truck tires that send wrenches flying across the room for fun. And it's stuff that really piques the curiosity, gets you out of your comfort zone. And being a college professor and then relaying this to your students, knowing that the next generation will continue to relay that, continue to pay that forward. Again, come back to my first 2 words. Heck yeah. 100%.
Miss Yoder, what are some of the ways people from your industry are making a difference in the world?
I think for me right now, I'm working with some neuroscientists and really connecting the way our emotions, our mind, body, soul, the connection with our nervous system specifically. And there's so much knowledge out there. So what we're currently working on, and I think is probably some of the biggest breakthroughs, is generously, I've been told that what they figure out in neuroscience, it takes about 17 to 20 years before it's actually practiced in every day. So bridging that gap, which I do believe smartphones are going to help, but finding a way to bridge that gap, we're absolutely doing, which is going to really just catapult wellness all the way together. Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff right now.
Okay, so thank you so much to our panelists. We want to thank you for sharing your stories and your insights. So inspirational, so motivating, and I know you have really inspired our students. And just a big round of applause, please, for everyone. Thank you. Before we officially close out for the evening, I'd like to ask the panelists if there is one last piece of advice that you would like to leave for the women in the audience tonight.
This is the part of the program where I quote Legally Blonde, because of course. So when Elle Woods at the end of the movie is saying, I'm going to have to leave law school and stop trying to be something I'm not, Emmett replies, what if you're trying to be somebody you are? And to me, what I take from that is, while it's important to have goals and work toward those goals, it's also important to be flexible and recognize that new opportunities may come along and they may take you on a different path. And just because it's not the path you originally had in mind for yourself doesn't mean it's the wrong one. It may be the right path for you. And I very much think that that kind of embodies my career path.
Know your worth and own your voice and believe in yourself, and you do not need permission to lead.
I would say well-behaved women rarely make history. So whatever it is that you want to do, whatever big dreams that you might have, get out there and do it.
For me, 3 things. Be curious, be kind, but be true to yourself. If you're true to yourself, everything else will fall in.
Do not be afraid to take up space, whether it's in a grocery store or in a room. You deserve to be here just as much as the person next to you. So take that space and own it.
Thank you again, panelists. Truly so appreciative of you being here and supporting our students. And I also want to thank our wonderful students. They did amazing. Before closing out our evening, I just want to highlight that tonight was made possible by a community that believes in students. If you would like to support next year's Women in Leadership as a sponsor, please see our Director of Communications after we adjourn, and she will take your information and follow up on sponsorship information. At this time, I'd like to invite our Board President, Ms. Catherine Dunn, and our Superintendent, Dr. Jim Elsasser, to the stage to close out our evening.
Good evening, everyone. And what an inspirational night. And it's so nice. I know several of you, and I know last names, and I believe my nieces went to school with the two of you. So it's nice. That's community. We heard honest stories about starting before you feel ready, persevering through challenges, and bringing others along for the journey. And to our students, thank you so much. You showed thoughtful curiosity and leadership on the mic. To our panelists, thank you for your candor and for the practical wisdom you shared. At Claremont Unified, our purpose is to ignite curiosity, strengthen resilience, and inspire excellence, to empower each student's academic journey. Tonight, you could feel that purpose in the room. So before we conclude, we would like to take a moment to recognize our panelists in a special way. Dr. Elsasser and I are honored to present the CUSD Challenge Coin to each of you. Thank you. The coin recognizes individuals who exemplify our district's core values of providing a high-quality, rigorous, and relevant educational experience for all students, equipping each student with differentiated resources to support the whole child, fostering critical thinking, creativity, and ingenuity, and demonstrating honesty, dependability, good judgment, and respect in all actions. You live these values in your work and in your leadership, so thank you for modeling them here for our students this evening.
Thank you, President Dunn, and thank you again to our panelists, our student moderators, our families, staff, and community partners who made tonight possible. Students, here is your challenge for this week. Choose one idea you heard tonight, one relationship you want to strengthen, and one step you will take. Write it down, tell a friend or mentor, and take that step. Leadership grows from small actions done consistently. So on behalf of the Claremont Unified School District Board of Education, thank you for spending your evening with us. Travel safely, keep lifting each other up, and we look forward to seeing you at next year's Women in Leadership event on Tuesday, October 13th. Mark your calendars now. Have a good evening, everyone.